Echoes call from hollow halls, a voice that creeps and softly crawls. Time stands still, the air is...
It was broad daylight on a California freeway when a jewelry dealer carrying millions was forced off the road in a heist so bold, it left police stunned. He didn't know the car behind him wasn't just another driver. It was waiting for the perfect moment. Then a violent crash happens. The car spins out, and before he can even breathe, masked men close in. It doesn't look real, but it is. Every second captured on camera. The victim was left shaken, but he wasn't alone, because across America, roads have become scenes of danger. From violent ambushes in Chicago, to highway chases ending in flames, to random attacks that defy reason. These are the moments that make even investigators stop and stare. This is 6 most disturbing road encounters caught on camera. It was the evening of January 1st, 2024, when Sergeant Noer of the Mononee Police Department was on routine patrol. The streets of South Central Wisconsin were quiet, the air cold and still after the New Year celebrations. But calm nights on the road can change in an instant, and this one did. As the sergeant approached a car he considered suspicious, the driver suddenly made a sharp U-turn. Before any lights or sirens came on, the vehicle took off, speeding away. For a brief second, Noer locked eyes with the 3 people inside. It would be the last time anyone saw them alive. Within moments, radio chatter filled the air. Officers from nearby jurisdictions joined in as dispatch coordinated the pursuit. A Dane County deputy moved to deploy tire deflation strips, a standard measure meant to end chases safely. But as the fleeing car neared the intersection of Femrite Drive and Buckeye Road, control was lost. The vehicle crashed violently, twisting metal and shattering glass, marking the end of the chase. The dash and body cameras captured what followed: the flashing emergency lights, the rush of officers running toward the wreckage, and the tense voices calling for rescue crews. The car was mangled, tilted at a dangerous angle, its front end crushed. Inside were 3 young lives that hung in the balance. "Can anyone inside hear me?" one officer called out. "Hey, stay awake," another shouted, his voice heavy with urgency.
"Hey, can you hear me, man? Hey, stay awake."
They tried to pull one person out, but the wreckage was too severe. The doors wouldn't open, the seats were jammed, and the risk of the car shifting made it unsafe to climb inside. Fire crews were requested immediately for extraction. As minutes passed, reality began to sink in. Officers confirmed that 2 passengers were pinned, and 1 was unresponsive in the back seat. They called out names, checked for movement, but there was none. "There's 3, one responder said quietly. 2 pinned, 1 in the back seat. Their efforts continued until the fire department arrived. But by the time first responders gained access, all 3 passengers had passed away either on impact or moments after. Those victims were later identified as 19-year-old Asia Ray, 20-year-old Rashad Nelson, and 30-year-old Aaron Willis. Their deaths sent a shockwave through Monona and Dane County, a heartbreaking start to the new year that reignited an ongoing debate about police pursuits. In the hours after the crash, the Wisconsin Department of Justice's Division of Criminal Investigation took over the case. The officers involved were placed on paid administrative leave, a standard procedure during fatal incidents. The Monona Police Department issued a statement expressing deep sympathy for the victims' families, emphasizing that its officers were caring and compassionate professionals who would fully cooperate with the investigation. Mono Police Chief Brian Cheney spoke publicly, saying his department was committed to supporting both the community and the families of those lost. He urged patience and faith in the state's investigative process, adding that he had full confidence in the Department of Justice to handle the case transparently. According to the Department of Justice, the pursuit began when officers attempted to stop a vehicle they considered suspicious near Nichols and Monona Drive. For reasons still unclear, the driver sped off. Moments later, the vehicle struck the tire deflation device placed by deputies, lost control, and crashed near Cottage Grove. As the investigation continued, questions were raised about the city's pursuit policy, which had already been revised several times in recent years. Monona's city council had updated the policy in late 2022, loosening previous restrictions that prevented high-speed chases except for violent felonies. The intent was to give officers more discretion, but the outcome of this crash made many in the community question whether that flexibility had gone too far. In the days following the tragedy, the department temporarily suspended its pursuit policy, allowing for a pause and internal review. But just over 2 weeks later, on January 16th, Monona's mayor decided to reinstate the original version of the policy, one that once again allowed officers to pursue drivers who refused to stop. It was a controversial move that drew mixed reactions from residents and safety advocates alike. The Wisconsin Division of Criminal Investigation ultimately concluded that there was no evidence of misconduct by law enforcement officers. Prosecutors found that the attempt to use spike strips had not contributed to the condition of the vehicle before the crash. The officers were cleared of wrongdoing, but the emotional toll lingered long after the official findings. For the families of Asia Ray, Rashad Nelson, and Aaron Willis, those conclusions offered little comfort. Their loved ones' final moments had played out over police radio and body cam footage, preserved in haunting detail. What began as a simple traffic stop ended as a tragedy that left a community divided between the demands of public safety and the need for restraint. In the months that followed, Monona residents attended town meetings and vigils, many calling for clearer pursuit guidelines and greater emphasis on prevention over pursuit. Police officials too expressed the same sentiment, that every pursuit carries a risk not only for the suspect but for innocent passengers and bystanders. It was a reminder that behind every set of flashing lights, there are people, officers making split-second decisions, and families waiting for loved ones who never come home. The Monona crash became one of several fatal pursuits that year in Wisconsin, each renewing calls for reform and compassion in the way such cases are handled. And though the roads have long been cleared and the investigations closed, the memory of that night still echoes in radio transmissions and in the quiet resolve of a community trying to learn from loss. It serves as both a warning and a hope that every life matters and every pursuit must be weighed not only by policy, but by the human cost that follows. Before we go any further, I just want to ask you for a small favor. If you're enjoying the video so far, please give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. We recently hit 100,000 subscribers, and that's all thanks to you. Our 100K special surprise was revealed, and we had many positive responses from you. Our next goal is to hit 200K before the year ends. It feels impossible, but hey, it's free to dream, right? Also, there's a hidden word somewhere in this video for you. Let's see if you can find it. Now, back to the video. On October 24th, 2023, a routine afternoon on eastbound Interstate 10 near Arlington Avenue became a violent robbery. Around 1:30 p.m., a black Dodge Caravan intentionally struck a black Alfa Romeo, disabling it and leaving smoke and debris on the shoulder. A Ford Mustang was also struck in the crash. At least 4 people wearing ski masks, dark clothing and hooded sweatshirts jumped out of the van and ran toward the stranded sedan. A motorist who recorded the scene on his cell phone said, "First I thought it was a hit and run gone bad, but it turns out to be something more serious. It was a robbery in progress." The video shows the sedan driver on his knees with both hands raised while the masked group moves through the cabin and the trunk. Another bystander remained close enough to film with his phone, even as one suspect came dangerously near him, and later told reporters, "It seems like they knew what he had in his car. I felt really bad for him. I thought it was over for him, but he did the right thing. He put his hands up, let them take what they took, and that is the safest way he could have done it." The robbers searched the vehicle with purpose. California Highway Patrol investigators said the suspects carried a hammer and a crowbar, and they demanded to know where the jewelry was. After taking items from inside the car, the group returned to their vehicles and sped away. THP officials said the fleeing car was a white Chevrolet Malibu heading east on Interstate 10. Local reporters and law enforcement later identified the victim as a jewelry dealer visiting from Hong Kong, a detail that matched the suspect's questions and the focused nature of the search. No injuries were reported, and authorities treated the incident as vehicular assault with robbery. CHP asked anyone with information to call investigators and to share any cell phone or dashcam footage that might show the vehicles or the route the suspects used. News outlets posted the cell phone clip shortly after it appeared on social media. The footage captured the sequence in stark detail. Viewers could plainly observe the damaged bumper, the placement of debris, the clothing of the suspects, and the direction they fled. Journalists who reviewed multiple videos noted the same sequence, and CHP confirmed the core elements shown on camera, including the minivan, the white Malibu, and the tools used by the suspects. The man who filmed the encounter described the scene as unreal. According to news reports, he said, "I was shocked, to be honest, because I have not seen anything like that. Personally, I thought it was on a movie set. It was not a movie. It was real." Those words were echoed by others who pulled over to see what had happened, and by motorists who later watched the clip online. Detectives moved quickly to gather more evidence. They sought surveillance recordings from nearby businesses and checked traffic cameras for matching timestamps and vehicle movements. Investigators compared descriptions from different cell phone videos to establish a timeline from the initial impact to the suspect's escape. Early public reports indicated no arrests had been made as authorities followed leads. The video gave officers important details. Small elements that are easy to miss in the live moment become leads when reviewed frame by frame, including the sequence of lane changes before the impact, the angle of collision, and partial views of license plates on the vehicles nearby. Witness recordings helped confirm the presence of a second vehicle that struck the Mustang, and they showed how quickly the suspects regrouped and left the shoulder. Authorities handled the matter with care because the victim was a visitor, and because the incident unfolded on a busy freeway in broad daylight. News reports respected the victim's privacy while noting occupation and origin, and CHP emphasized public safety and the importance of eyewitness cooperation. Investigators asked that anyone who had video preserve the original file and share it with law enforcement, rather than only posting compressed versions to social platforms. The account of the day is concise and stark. A deliberate crash. Masked people emerging from a van. A driver kneeling with hands raised while the attackers searched the vehicle. A white Malibu fleeing east. Multiple cell phone recordings that captured the progression and gave investigators a place to start. As CHP followed those leads, reporters and neighbors tracked updates through official channels. Law enforcement asked the public to report tips and to provide any recordings to investigators. Officials noted the suspects used ordinary vehicles and simple tools, which complicated rapid identification, and they urged anyone with information to contact the California Highway Patrol immediately. Outlets including ABC7 and the Los Angeles Times embedded the cell phone footage and reported CHP confirmation of the vehicles and tools. Reporters checked several clips to verify sequence and to document time and location for investigators. On March 28, 2025, a stolen flatbed work truck touched off a chase that stretched across Los Angeles County and ended in a chaotic crash spree in Long Beach. The pursuit began in downtown Los Angeles, near the Harbor Freeway and Adams Street, and threaded onto the freeways and surface streets, sometimes reaching speeds above 100 miles per hour as the driver weaved through traffic. Sky helicopter and traffic cameras followed the truck as it moved from the northbound 605 onto the 22 and then toward Long Beach, sideswiping vehicles and driving on shoulders and medians as officers tracked the danger. Motorists who watched the truck barrel through intersections and neighborhoods kept recording. One onlooker can be heard saying, "He needs to slow down. Everyone is going by," as the vehicle hugged the center divider and cut across lanes. The caller warned that the truck was moving through heavy traffic near a college, and the tone of the live video kept tightening. At times, the driver appeared to lose control, then kept going, pushing past cars in his path. Another voice on the live feed said, "This is a terrible situation. He is pushing his way through," and viewers craned to see who might be caught in the wake of the truck. As the chase moved into Long Beach, the truck left a trail of smashed bumpers and scattered debris. Reporters and crews on the scene later counted numerous collisions along a stretch of road. One person described the vehicle striking at least 13 other cars during the pursuit, a figure that reflected the widening path of damage as the driver barreled on. At one intersection, the truck boned one car and sideswiped several more before it ran a red light and plowed into the front of a paint store parking lot, where a concrete barrier stopped it near a Sherwin-Williams. The owner of a work truck that had been stolen said he left the vehicle running briefly at a shop and later learned it had been taken. The final moments were as tense as anything viewers had seen earlier. After the truck crashed into the barrier outside the store, the driver stepped out and began to walk away casually. Within minutes, officers closed in and tackled him a few blocks away. Live footage showed dozens of officers on scene and several grappling with the suspect as they tried to gain control. An eyewitness on the live feed exclaimed, "They finally got him subdued," while reporting that the suspect landed on top of an officer during the struggle. Medics were called for both the officer and the suspect, and at least one officer was taken from the scene for treatment. The raw audio from the live broadcast captured reactions that were equal parts stunned and relieved. One reporter said, "This is probably one of the most aggressive pursuits we have ever covered. Certainly the most outrageous." And a colleague added, "I would say he hit at least 10 vehicles." As footage rolled of crushed fenders and overturned traffic cones, another voice, catching his breath, said, "I am stressed out from that." And viewers could hear the strain in reporters trying to tally the scale of the destruction. Those live comments were echoed on later reports that said the chase had gone on for roughly 30 minutes before it ended in Long Beach. Police described the suspect as the driver of a reportedly stolen flatbed truck. Authorities say the vehicle was taken from an auto body shop where it had been left running briefly. The man arrested was later identified in public filings as Adam James Bowen, age 40, who was booked on multiple charges including attempted murder, carjacking, several counts of assault with a deadly weapon, and hit-and-run counts tied to the collisions. Prosecutors moved quickly to file serious charges, reflecting the danger that a moving stolen truck posed to scores of motorists and pedestrians. Court records and press releases show the booking, and the list of counts filed by the district attorney in the days following the chase. Investigators and reporters worked to piece together a timeline from multiple camera angles and dozens of cell phone videos. Reviewers said that small details from the air footage and ground clips helped establish where the truck entered the freeways, where it clipped other cars, and the exact sequence of hits that led to the final crash. A city reporter noted that officers shifted into a tracking mode at one point, as the California Highway Patrol coordinated the response, and that multiple agencies helped secure the area after the chase ended. Officials asked people who had recorded the pursuit to preserve the original files and turn them over to investigators, because high-quality video can be decisive in identifying precise movements and possible passengers. In the chaotic minutes after the arrest, neighbors, witnesses, and business owners gathered near the crash site to describe what they had seen. One man whose work truck had been stolen said, "At the beginning I thought somebody in the shop was making a joke," and then described the shock of learning the vehicle had been driven off and then driven into other cars all across the city. Emergency responders treated people at the scene, and authorities later released updates confirming the suspect was in custody and being held while investigators sorted through the evidence and notifications were made to those affected. The footage left a clear visual record: a stolen truck weaving through traffic, heavy damage to multiple vehicles, officers and medics responding, and a suspect wrestled down and taken into custody. Authorities urged anyone who had video or who witnessed any portion of the chase to contact police. And they continued to collect evidence and prepare the case that would move through the courts in the weeks after the arrest. On the morning of July 21, 2021, the sun had barely climbed over the horizon when a tense chase unfolded along Interstate 95 in Broward County, Florida. Morning commuters filled the lanes, unaware that a stolen dark sport utility vehicle, packed with 5 juveniles, was speeding their way. It began as a regular morning. Drivers were heading southbound toward Hollywood when the unmistakable sound of roaring tires echoed down the highway. The black SUV darted across lanes, swerving between cars with reckless precision. Witnesses later described it as if the vehicle came out of nowhere. A driver named Marta, who was on her way to work, recalled the moment she noticed the SUV in her rearview mirror. "It was flying. I thought, they're not going to stop," she said. "I moved over as fast as I could." Law enforcement had already locked onto the vehicle. Several agencies, including Fort Lauderdale Police and Florida Highway Patrol, were coordinating in real time. Patrol cars trailed behind, lights flashing, sirens piercing the morning air. Overhead, a local news helicopter captured everything. The SUV sped down I-95 southbound, approaching the Sterling Road area. At approximately 8:10 in the morning, the driver attempted a sudden move toward an exit. Witnesses saw the vehicle veer from the far left lane all the way to the right in a single motion. The maneuver proved catastrophic. The SUV smashed into a guardrail, striking pylons that marked the express lane boundaries. It rolled violently, flipping multiple times before coming to rest upside down in the middle of the highway. In seconds, a high-speed chase had turned into a devastating chain reaction crash. Traffic came to a standstill. Smoke rose from twisted metal. Several cars had been caught in the chaos. One of those cars belonged to Elena, a mother of two. She sat on the side of the road minutes later, trembling as officers spoke to her. "I just kept thinking, I can't believe I'm alive," she whispered to a bystander. Her car was heavily damaged, but she had managed to crawl out on her own. From above, cameras captured the next moments in chilling clarity. Two suspects scrambled out of the overturned SUV through the shattered rear windshield, attempting to flee. Officers moved in swiftly, weapons drawn, shouting commands. The suspects were detained within seconds. Moments later, two more occupants were pulled from the vehicle by law enforcement. A fifth person was found inside as officers continued their search. "It happened so fast," said James, a construction worker who was driving a truck a few cars back. "1 second it was clear. The next I saw that SUV just flip like a toy. I heard people screaming, then cops were everywhere. All southbound lanes of Interstate 95 near Pembroke Road were closed. Emergency crews rushed to the scene. Firefighters navigated through wreckage, checking each vehicle involved for injuries. Miraculously, despite the violence of the crash, no fatalities were reported. The SUV had clipped multiple vehicles during the exit attempt. Witnesses described it cutting across lanes with no signal, leaving drivers with no time to react. 3 other vehicles were damaged in total. Airbags deployed, bumpers were torn away, debris was scattered across several lanes. An onlooker who pulled over to help recalled the moment she approached one of the damaged cars. "There was a woman just sitting there, staring at her hands," she said. "She wasn't bleeding, but she looked completely in shock. She kept saying, 'They came out of nowhere. They came out of nowhere.'" Law enforcement officers continued to secure the area. One trooper could be seen leaning into the overturned SUV, checking for any remaining occupants. "Clear the vehicle," someone shouted. One by one, suspects were escorted away, handcuffed and visibly shaken. As traffic backed up for miles, many northbound drivers slowed down to watch. Curiosity delays grew, as the overturned SUV and crushed cars became the focus of everyone on the road. James remembered what he saw in those first moments after the crash. You could hear the tires squealing before it flipped. Then the bang. "It was like thunder," he said. "You don't forget that sound." Marta, still shaken, stood near her car as officers took her statement. "I saw them cut across all lanes. I thought they were going to hit me head on. I just prayed," she said softly. For law enforcement, the priority was clear. Secure the suspects, treat the injured, and clear the highway. Fire rescue teams worked methodically, examining each crumpled vehicle. Debris cleanup would take hours. Investigators began marking tire tracks and skid marks with chalk, documenting every detail for the crash report. The overturned SUV was eventually identified as stolen. All 5 occupants were juveniles. Their ages shocked many who watched the story unfold later that day. The reasons behind their decision to flee remained under investigation. For the innocent motorists caught in the wreck, the day had turned from ordinary to unforgettable. Elena sat on the curb, her hands still shaking. A paramedic handed her a water bottle as she tried to process what had happened. "I thought I wouldn't make it home," she said quietly. The highway, normally filled with the steady rhythm of commuter traffic, had transformed into a chaotic crash site. Police vehicles lined the road. Helicopters hovered overhead. Drivers who had been heading to work or school were now part of a massive traffic jam stretching for miles. Cleanup crews worked through the morning to remove debris and tow the damaged vehicles. The flipped SUV was loaded onto a truck, its roof crushed and windows shattered, a stark reminder of how quickly danger can arrive. By late morning, The suspects had been taken into custody. 4 of them had been pulled from the vehicle, 2 trying to run and 2 coaxed out by officers. The 5th was found still inside, disoriented. All were detained without further incident. As the scene slowly cleared, drivers who had witnessed the chase and crash exchanged their disbelief. "You see it on TV, but when it happens right in front of you," James said, shaking his head, "it's a different story." On the afternoon of Thursday, the 21st of April 2022, the usually calm streets of Santa Clarita, California, turned into the scene of a dangerous chase that left residents stunned. What began as a pursuit of a stolen Cadillac Escalade quickly escalated into a chaotic spectacle involving wrong-way driving, close calls, and a tense foot chase through a residential neighborhood. The vehicle at the center of it all was a black Cadillac Escalade with Texas license plates. Authorities later revealed that the driver, an 18-year-old, was wanted for murder in Texas. 2 other passengers, both minors, were also in the SUV. The chase started in Burbank just after 4 in the afternoon, when officers spotted the stolen vehicle and attempted to make a traffic stop. Instead of pulling over, the driver hit the gas, setting off a pursuit that would stretch across multiple cities. Eyewitnesses along the freeway recall the moment the SUV flew past them. "I was on Valencia Boulevard when I saw this big black Escalade swerve into the wrong lane," said Maria Lopez, who was driving home from work. "People were honking and braking. He nearly hit a car head-on. My heart stopped." Her description matched dashcam footage later released, showing the vehicle jumping a median and racing the wrong way down Valencia Boulevard. It narrowly avoided a collision that could have been catastrophic. As the chase continued, one of the passengers suddenly jumped out of the moving SUV at high speed. Video captured the moment he tumbled onto the road, only to scramble back to his feet and climb back inside seconds later, when he noticed police cruisers behind them. Officers from the California Highway Patrol were in close pursuit, joined by LAPD units and a police helicopter overhead, tracking the suspect's every move. "They were going so fast, blowing through red lights like they didn't care," said Jacob Rivera, who was outside a gas station when the chase sped by. "It felt like something out of a movie, except it was real and right in front of us." The driver weaved through intersections, ignored traffic signals, and accelerated through wide-open stretches of Santa Clarita roads. For onlookers, it was terrifying to watch. "I grabbed my kids and ran inside," said one resident. "We didn't know if they were armed, and they were driving like they had nothing to lose." The chase took a dramatic turn when the suspects entered a large apartment complex near Soledad Canyon Road. The driver made a sharp left turn into the Villa Metro community, circling the entrance in a strange maneuver that looked like he was trying to toy with the officers. "He's going in circles," one witness recorded on their phone. "He's literally circling the parking lot with cops right behind him." As the Escalade came face to face with a CHP unit inside the complex, both the driver and a passenger flung open their doors and took off running. The vehicle was abandoned where it stopped, its engine still running. The 2 young suspects sprinted through the maze of buildings and courtyards, scaling fences and darting through backyards. "Lock your doors," shouted a resident who saw them racing past his window. "They're in the neighborhood." People lounging near the community pool suddenly found themselves in the middle of the chase. "We were having swimming lessons," said a mother who had her 6-year-old daughter with her at the pool. "Then we saw these 2 teenagers running along the pool deck. It was terrifying. We didn't know if they had weapons." She quickly gathered her child and moved to safety as the suspects tried to find a hiding place behind poolside chairs and bushes. Overhead, the LAPD helicopter guided ground units through the complex. Deputies from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department joined in, surrounding the area. "They thought they could hide," said Deputy Hernandez, one of the responding officers. "But with the airship overhead and multiple agencies closing in, there was nowhere for them to go." The 2 suspects eventually tried to conceal themselves in some bushes along a bike path near the rear of the complex. But with so many eyes in the air and on the ground, their efforts were short-lived. Officers with weapons drawn moved in from multiple sides. Seeing they were surrounded, the teenagers dropped to the ground and surrendered without further struggle. Residents watching from balconies and windows exhaled in relief as the situation came to an end. Back at the scene of the abandoned Escalade, officers inspected the vehicle and the surrounding area. Earlier in the chase, they had recovered a firearm tossed from the SUV along the freeway, though investigators were still working to determine ownership. Authorities confirmed that the driver was indeed an 18-year-old wanted for murder in Texas, and that the vehicle had been stolen there. He was taken into custody along with the 2 minors. For Santa Clarita residents, the ordeal was a shocking reminder of how quickly danger can spill into a neighborhood. "We always feel safe here," said an older man who had watched the chase from his porch. "To see something like this, right here, with kids playing outside, it shakes you." The chase lasted about 15 minutes but covered miles of city streets, endangered countless drivers, and ended with 2 suspects caught and 1 earlier dropped off, still being sought at the time. Fortunately, despite the reckless driving, no one was injured during the pursuit. The suspects now face a long list of charges, including vehicle theft and evading law enforcement, and for the driver, extradition to Texas for the murder warrant. It was a tense afternoon that unfolded live for anyone watching from the ground or above, a moment when an ordinary neighborhood became the final stage of a dangerous chase. As the sun set that evening, residents slowly returned to their routines, grateful that what could have ended in tragedy ended instead with arrests and no innocent lives lost. On the afternoon of Thursday, August 3rd, 2023, the quiet streets of Chicago's Avondale neighborhood were interrupted by a scene that left residents shaken and afraid. What had always been an ordinary stretch of West Oakdale Avenue turned into the backdrop of a violent daylight robbery that shocked even lifelong locals. For more than 30 years, Joanna Sinatron had called Avondale home. She had seen the neighborhood change. She had seen new families move in, and for decades, she had never once felt unsafe walking outside. But that Thursday, everything changed. Joanna was in her home when her neighbor stepped out for a short errand. Moments later, she heard noise coming from outside, shouting, a commotion, and the sound of a car accelerating. When she looked out, her heart dropped. Her neighbor was on the ground. "It's really nerve-wracking," Joanna later said when reporters asked her how it felt. "Makes me feel very uneasy in my own neighborhood." Just before 1 in the afternoon, a gray SUV had pulled up along the 4000 block of West Oakdale Avenue. Inside were 2 individuals wearing masks. They stepped out quickly, each holding what appeared to be a firearm, and approached a man walking along the sidewalk. According to witnesses, the victim offered no resistance. "He didn't fight back," Joanna recalled. "He just froze." One of the robbers ordered him to empty his pockets. When he reached for his phone and wallet, one of them struck him. "They hit him once," Joanna said softly. "Then a second time. That one knocked him out." The entire attack lasted less than 30 seconds. The suspects searched his pockets, grabbed what they wanted, and ran back to the SUV. Neighbors could be seen rushing from nearby homes as the vehicle sped away. Some called out for help, others immediately dialed 911. At that moment, no one knew this wasn't the first attack of the day. Only a few minutes earlier, those same suspects had targeted another man at a shopping plaza on Pulaski Road near West Nelson Street, about a mile away. Surveillance footage from that plaza captured them pulling up beside their victim, forcing him to the ground, and taking everything he had. The footage was later shared by investigators, clear enough to show the clothing, masks, and vehicle involved. Police believe the 2 robberies were part of a string of at least 7 incidents that same Thursday across Chicago's northwest side. The attackers seemed to move fast, hitting one area after another, before officers could respond. The precision and timing made investigators suspect they were part of a coordinated crew. As neighbors began to gather around the man on Oakdale Avenue, Joanna could see the disbelief on everyone's faces. "I've never seen anything like that," she said. "I thought this kind of thing only happened far away, not right here." The victim was treated at the scene and later taken to a hospital. Thankfully, he survived. But for those who saw it, the image stayed with them. One witness told police, "They just came out of nowhere, hit him and left. like they didn't even care if someone was watching. In the days that followed, the Chicago Police Department issued a community alert warning residents of the pattern of armed robberies. The offenders were described as 2 to 3 individuals wearing dark clothing and masks, often using stolen vehicles to commit the crimes and quickly flee the area. By mid-August, detectives from the Area 5 Bureau of Detectives had connected these robberies to a larger crew believed to be responsible for multiple similar incidents across Chicago's north and northwest sides. Surveillance footage, license plate reader data, and eyewitness accounts all helped piece together their movements. According to a later police release, officers eventually identified several suspects linked to the robberies. One of them, arrested in connection with the August incidents, was charged with multiple counts of armed robbery with a dangerous weapon. Police stated that the offenders would target people walking alone, using sudden force and intimidation to take personal belongings. While the investigation was still unfolding, local news outlets continued to follow the story, one of which reported that although one robbery crew had been captured, others were still active. This meant that even as arrests were made, residents were urged to remain vigilant. For Joanna, the arrest provided some relief, but didn't erase the anxiety that had taken hold of her street. "You can't help but look over your shoulder now," she said. "It makes you wonder who's driving by." In interviews, she described how her community felt changed overnight. People who once chatted freely on sidewalks now stayed inside more. Parents started escorting their children home from school again. "It just makes us feel not safe in our own neighborhood," she said. Still, Joanna refused to let fear control her. "We can't live like that," she added. "It can happen anywhere, but it shouldn't stop us from living our lives." The message from residents was consistent. Enough was enough. They wanted more patrols, faster police response times, and community meetings to discuss safety. The Avondale Neighborhood Association began working closely with law enforcement to share tips and video footage. In late July of 2024, nearly a year after the incident, the Chicago Police Department officially announced the arrest of a suspect connected to the August 2023 armed robbery series. The department credited community cooperation and witness statements for helping solve parts of the case. While not every offender had been caught, police said the arrest represented significant progress in dismantling one of the active robbery crews terrorizing the city's northwest side. The department's statement read, "The Chicago Police Department remains committed to identifying and arresting all individuals involved in these crimes. We thank the residents who provided information and continue to assist with this ongoing investigation." For people like Joanna, those words offered cautious hope. She said she now keeps her security cameras running day and night. Her neighbors share updates through group chats whenever they see unfamiliar vehicles lingering too long. "We're watching out for each other now," she said. "That's the only way to keep our block safe." The Oakdale attack had lasted less than a minute, but its impact stretched across an entire community. It became a symbol of the everyday fear many Chicagoans have faced, and of how fast ordinary life can be disrupted. When asked what she would say to the people responsible, Joanna took a breath, and what she said next was simple, but it struck a chord. Her words reflected what many in Avondale felt.
If you have the time and energy to put into doing something negative, you can do it doing positive things, find a job.
Frustration mixed with hope, a belief that even in moments of fear, the community's strength could still outweigh the actions of a few. The robberies that August day showed how fragile safety can be, but they also revealed something stronger. A neighborhood unwilling to give up, neighbors willing to stand together, and a city that refuses to let violence define it. And that brings us to the end of this episode. If you found this video informative, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss what we drop next. We cover stories like this almost every day, and trust me, you don't want to be left behind. If you can't wait until the next upload, there are more videos popping up on your screen in just a few seconds. Click one and keep watching. Until then, take care. I'm out.